The whole music business is presently in a state of complete frozen dread due to an absolutely brutal corporate execution that just took place behind closed doors. We had assumed that Drake and Rick Ross's dispute was restricted to social media memes and diss recordings, but what Drake just accomplished with his enormous business power has officially detonated a nuclear bomb in the entertainment industry. Drake decided he wasn't just going to laugh at Rick Ross's terrible album release, which resulted in a catastrophic business collapse by selling a pitiful 2,000 pure copies, while global tour venues sat over 80% empty. Rick Ross was formally barred from the music business after the Six Gods entered the boardrooms. We are discussing direct, high-level pressure on major record label boards, executives of streaming services, and international radio networks to stop supporting Ross's playlist entirely, prevent any more significant distribution agreements, and permanently prohibit big artists from working with Maybach Music Group. Ross's whole multi-million-dollar enterprise is officially in danger of being completely destroyed, and his legal team has just gone into a state of desperate emergency panic to defend this ban before his legacy is wiped. Drake's filing at the 5-minute mark alters things forever, so stay still. Examining how the power dynamics between these two rap superstars have drastically changed over the past 10 years is necessary to fully understand the devastating, career-ending scope of this most recent breakdown. This isn't only an impromptu argument about posts on social media. Music, one of the most lucrative and legendary collaborations in contemporary hip-hop history, has completely and horrifyingly collapsed. Drake and Rick Ross were more than just casual partners for more than 10 years. They were an unstoppable machine for creating hits. Magic always occurred when these two entered a recording booth together. The combination of Rick Ross's booming, luxury-obsessed baritone and Drake's silky, melodic melodies defined a whole period of Rich's rap, from timeless classics like Aston Martin Music, Lord, Music, Knows, and Stay Schemin' to huge chart-topping hits like Gold Roses and Money in the Grave. They referred to one another as brothers. They frequently referred to their combined work as the culture's gold standard, shared private aircraft, and took boats in Miami for vacations. Rick Ross profited greatly from his partnership with OVO for many years. Drake immediately attracted a sizable, international pop crossover fan base to Maybach Music Group. Drake was always ready to provide Ross with a verse that would get hundreds of millions of streams whenever he needed a smash song to support the release of an album. Music, in exchange, Drake received massive cosigns, street prestige, and an air of untouchable, boss-level opulence from Ross. But a quiet, harsh friction was steadily growing under the platinum plaque's surface. Rick Ross started to struggle to hold on to his place in a quickly changing, streaming-dominated music world as Drake emerged as the most commercially powerful musician on Earth, shattering Billboard records previously held by the Beatles. Many classic artists were left susceptible by the transition from physical CD sales to digital algorithms, and Ross had to rely more and more on his partnerships with Drake in order to achieve top-tier chart placement. During the heated 2024 rap warfare, the frail brotherhood ultimately broke into a million pieces. Rick Ross committed what many saw as the ultimate betrayal when the whole industry lined together to criticize Drake. Music, he chose to oppose his longtime brother. Ross entered the arena by releasing a diss tune called Champagne Moments, in which he made fun of Drake's looks, questioned his sincerity, and came up with the disparaging moniker BBL Drizzy. Ross launched an unrelenting campaign of social media trolling, including videos of himself laughing at OVO, wearing specially caricatured t-shirts, and proclaiming that the Sixth God had been dethroned. Drake used the waiting game and was well known for his surgical long-term memory. He refrained from engaging in constant back-and-forth Instagram live streaming or rushing into an imminent physical altercation. Drake was aware of a basic principle of the contemporary music industry. The finest time to serve revenge, music, is when your opponent's balance sheet is visible. Drake quietly waited in the background, keeping an eye on Ross's professional development, following his streaming data, and anticipating the precise time when the Maybach empire would reveal an irreparable point of commercial vulnerability. The release of Rick Ross's most recent studio album and his much-anticipated global tour marked that occasion. Ross presented the project as his great victory lap, assuring supporters that he could demonstrate. His continued dominance without the support of Drake or a major label. Music, however, the results were a complete nightmare when the official first-week sales statistics entered industry tracking databases. Every business executive in the music industry was rocked by the album's startlingly low 2,000 peer sales, a statistic so dreadfully low for a heritage hero. Music, to exacerbate the situation, venue seating charts for Ross's worldwide tour revealed enormous halls with 10,000 seats that were more than 80% vacant. As a result, promoters were forced to offer frantic buy one, get 50% off ticket deals in order to fill seats. The first to strike was 50 Cent, who ruthlessly ridiculed Ross's poor attendance and vacant venues. Drake, however, recognized a chance to move much beyond social media memes. Music. Drake came to the conclusion that Ross was no longer shielded by huge hit tracks or strong customer demand. The Maybach brand was exposed, financially precarious, and losing money. Drake chose to use his enormous business influence as a weapon rather than merely laughing. His goal was to make sure Rick Ross would never again be able to land a big distribution contract, be at the top of a streaming playlist, or collaborate with a premier artist. Music. In the early hours of Tuesday morning, the corporate execution got underway. It didn't begin with a diss tune or an Instagram tale. Drake's powerful legal team and corporate representatives addressed high-level, private legal and executive notifications to the executives of major digital streaming platforms, record label conglomerates, and international radio syndicates. Drake used his position as the most popular streaming artist in digital history as a weapon. Behind closed doors, the message was harsh, music, straightforward, and utterly unyielding. OVO Sound will reassess its exclusive catalog placements, licensing agreements, and upcoming album rollouts with your parent business if your platform or label continues to prioritize, distribute, or enable significant promotional collaborations for Maybach Music Group. Go back and read that. The whole music business was forced to decide between Rick Ross's failing record and Drake's billions of listens every year. The effects were severe, quick, and disastrous. At 10 in the morning, p.m., a significant digital streaming service's internal document was leaked. Music. According to the document, over 40 significant editorial playlists, including flagship hip-hop and rap rotation lists that generate millions of daily streams, have silently removed Rick Ross's new album tracks. The digital traffic to Ross's music, new songs was successfully choked off by the deliberate suppression of algorithm placements. Drake staged a social media victory lap that rocked the culture when word of the playlist deletions leaked online. Drake shared a mysterious image of himself sitting in a powerful executive boardroom with a cup of coffee and a special OVO ring on his Instagram story. He captioned the image with horrifying accuracy. "Ricky, the algorithms are truthful. The corporate doors automatically close when the actual statistics are revealed. Music. RIP to the Maybach myth, zipper mouth face. Officially, it is over. Total. Music. Uncontrolled pandemonium broke out in the comment sections. The visuals were just terrifying. Ross had claimed to be the largest boss for 15 years, but Drake was clearly showing who was in charge of the worldwide music industry. Complete, pure fear broke out inside Rick Ross's camp at the Promised Land Farm in Georgia. According to those close to Maybach Music Group, Ross received a flurry of desperate calls from his road manager, distributor, and foreign promoters, all of whom described the same horror. Overnight, streaming statistics had plummeted. Single advertisements were being pulled by radio stations, and distribution meetings were being abruptly canceled. Ross was stuck in a bad dream. In real time, he was confronted with the complete collapse of his business and public infrastructure. Ross used his Instagram stories to retaliate out of sheer fury, shame, and desperation. "Drake Music, you're playing dirty corporate games because you can't touch me in the booth," he said live from his private study while sporting a silk robe and a cigar. Ross snarled, his voice clearly trembling with wrath. "Are you pleading with white businessmen in boardrooms to withdraw my playlists?" An informant for the police does just that. You're utilizing corporate pressure because you're afraid of what would happen if true independent artists take a stance. You're a complete puppet in a suit. In an attempt to portray Drake's blacklisting effort as a cowardly corporate action, Ross accused Drake of adopting shady mainstream strategies to stifle real hip-hop pioneers. Ross asserted that no corporate blacklist could prevent him for his core fan base and that Maybach Music Group was 100% autonomous. My land is mine. Music, my Wingstops are mine. My catalog is mine. In an attempt to keep up his boss attitude, Ross yelled into the camera, "Drake, you can't ban a genuine millionaire. Your playlists are not necessary. We're heading directly to the streets." It was meant to represent a strong, rebellious stance. However, an unforeseen terrible turn of events occurred just as Ross was wrapping off his live tirade, turning his courageous speech, Music, into a complete disaster. A major record label distribution network's executive board had formally put a permanent moratorium on all future distribution and marketing agreements with Maybach Music Group, according to a verified leaked corporate memo published by a well-known music law publication. According to the announcement, until the corporate audit was completed, no major record label conglomerate would handle Rick Ross's library, distribute his forthcoming artist releases, or give multi-million-dollar advances for MMG projects. Ross's playlist wasn't the only thing taken away by Drake's promotion. Ross's access to financing from big record labels had been effectively cut off. 50 Cent responded right away from the sidelines, sharing the distribution prohibition memo with 20 smiling emojis and saying, "I told you, Drizzy. He can't even distribute a CD." Officially, the jig is up. Inside Ross's close group, anxiety peaked. Emergency legal meetings were convened to create a major federal antitrust complaint against Drake, and staff members could be seen racing in and out of his mansion. However, just as Ross's attorneys were getting the papers ready, a more significant leak emerged that stunned the whole industry. The entire music and entertainment industry was rocked by the announcement of the major distribution ban and playlist blacklisting. Hip-hop reaction channels, finance blogs, and news sources all went into overdrive to analyze if Drake had indeed managed to pull off the first successful corporate-driven ban of a heritage superstar in contemporary rap history. On X, TikTok, Music, and Instagram, the hashtags #Drake Blacklists Ross, #Mcollapse, and #BrickyBan were trending at number 1, 2, and 3 worldwide. Then followed the second huge, unanticipated turn of events that turned this corporate conflict into a terrible legal drama. Music at 2:30 p.m. The M leaked internal conversations between Drake's legal team and a senior official at a multinational music publishing company were revealed in a shocking revelation by an investigative entertainment writer. Drake's blacklisting effort was not only motivated by executive pressure, according to the records. It was supported by a carefully crafted legal provision that dealt with unmet master license agreements and co-ownership rights associated with their previous joint smash successes. A contractual provision from their early catalog partnerships that granted OVO some approval powers over how those shared assets, music, were sold in future catalog arrangements was discovered by Drake's legal team, according to the leaked documents. Drake's legal team formally froze all commercial licensing clearances for any project, compilation, or live broadcast that featured songs like Music, Aston Martin Music, Gold Roses, or Lord Knows, because Ross was accused of violating non-disparagement and brand integrity clauses by starting the BBL Drizzy campaign. Go back and read that. Drake didn't only beg labels to turn down Ross. He prevented Rick Ross from commercially exploiting his own greatest hits. Drake's legal team filed an instant cease and desist order whenever a label or streaming service tried to package or profit from Ross's old catalog, Music, making Ross's catalog asset portfolio essentially unmarketable to large corporate purchasers. The entire business was completely astonished by the move's sheer devilish ingenuity. Ross's latest record wasn't just stopped by Drake. The commercial worth of Ross's previous legacy had been essentially frozen by him. Music. Drake quickly took advantage of the shocking disclosure by posting a brief video on Instagram in which he was seated in his opulent Toronto estate, drinking champagne and grinning coldly and triumphantly into the camera. "Ricky, you used my hooks to build your entire brand," Drake whispered into the camera. "And the kitchen closed forever when you bit the hand that fed you. Savor the quiet." Music. The internet went crazy. The scenario became the most embarrassing and humiliating setback in hip-hop history when it was revealed that Rick Ross was legally prohibited from commercializing the biggest hits of his career. Every social media channel was overrun with memes that showed Rick Ross standing outside of closed record label doors with an empty suitcase. The biggest boss persona was a complete collapse in Rick Ross's camp. In order to avoid total company collapse, Ross's top financial advisors recommended him to immediately stop all promotional efforts and be ready for a protracted court struggle, according to sources inside the Maybach Music executive office. Ross was in a tight spot both financially and professionally. If he attempted to release music on his own, he would not have access to large distribution or playlist support. Drake's legal team stopped the licensing permissions if he attempted to sell his library. In an urgent late-afternoon press release, Rick Ross's legal team, driven to the verge of desperation, announced that they were bringing a multi-million-dollar federal lawsuit against Drake for tortious interference with business relations, illegal restraint of trade, and predatory corporate blacklisting. They pled with a federal judge to grant an immediate injunction against Drake's corporate campaign. According to the press release, Drake was permanently barred from the commercial market and destroying the livelihood of an independent artist by employing armed monopolistic power. However, Drake's legal team delivered a single, horrifying one-sentence statement that held everyone in suspense just as the public was waiting to learn if a court would step in. "We applaud the court action because it requires Music Group to provide its full, unaltered internal streaming stats, ticket sales receipts, and corporate debt disclosures under federal court oath." It was a deadly danger. Ross would have to expose his precise, humiliating financial information in public federal court records for everyone to see if he pursued the action. As the blacklisting battle peaked, the whole world's media landscape descended into a complete frenzy. The internet was split into two intensely hostile, unrepentant factions over Drake's brutal business practices. On the one hand, supporters of OVO and #Team Drake rejoiced at what they saw as the pinnacle of strategic retaliation. Drake was praised by fans on social media for being a cold-blooded strategic genius who converted a rap quarrel into a complete corporate execution. Music. For 10 years, Drake provided Rick Ross with his greatest hits. Drake absolutely destroyed his corporate infrastructure after Ross betrayed him. "This is the most ruthless payback in music history," said a popular tweet that received over 220,000 likes. "The hand that feeds your whole catalog is not the one you bite." On the other hand, #Team Ross and a number of independent music advocacy organizations voiced their profound disgust at Drake's actions, charging him with setting a poisonous precedent that endangers the independent music industry as a whole. If a global superstar can use his streaming dominance to force record labels and platforms to ban an independent artist, nobody is safe, a renowned music blog said. Drake is destroying a Black-owned music company by misusing his corporate monopolistic power. This is no longer rap feud. This corporate blacklisting is predatory. Music. To discuss the issue, important music executives and festival promoters made urgent private calls. Off the record, industry sources acknowledged that big firms had discreetly withdrawn from sponsorship agreements related to Maybach Music Group events, thus making Rick Ross economically radioactive due to Drake's campaign. Music. In multi-hour live broadcasts, podcast presenters and legal experts debated whether